Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at the orange version of the Tamotu kit here from Kotobukiya. So for this video, I want to do something a little bit different because I've already reviewed the white version of this, and there's not really that much difference except for the fact that this version now comes with a new part in there that will allow you to have kind of like a double mount kind of there on the top of it. I'll show you once we get to the unboxing, and I'll show you guys the part and all that. But what I want to do with this video is not your standard review, but I wanted to actually just show you guys the process of building and painting this kit from start to finish in like a summarized form. And if you guys saw my review, my work in progress on the last version, on the white version, I used a cloud camo on that, but in this one we're going to be trying out and I'm going to make it in a little bit different style. I'm going to customize this one as well too, like we did with the white version. So let's just go ahead and check out the unboxing first. I'll show you guys the box and everything that's included in here, and then we'll get to work on the kit. So once again, for this one, we've just got some delightful box art here on the front. The box is in this nice matte finish as well too. This is a 1/12 scale full action plastic model kit, and you've got it there kind of looks like maybe plugged into this generator or something on like a construction site. So they're meant to be kind of real world like actual use robots, not for like fighting wars or anything like that, but we can change that with some customization, I'm sure. On the end of the box here we got kind of just another version of that photo. It's flipped horizontally, and you also got it just kind of standing up in a different pose there, so you can see that. On the bottom of the box here we got a look at normal mode and work mode. So there's a look at when you've got kind of all the legs and the arm all tucked in together. The work mode, internal mode. So again, if you guys haven't seen my review of the original kit, it's got a lot of really nice detail inside there, which looks great as well too. And then options, so this is the new part that's included with this version of the kit and the blue version as well too. You have this mount piece there on the top, which will give you like a hard point on two sides instead of just having the one single one on the top there. So aside from the color, that is the only difference between these kits as far as I know. So going around here onto the top of the box then is just showing another image of these like in use in real world. So you can see they're putting in these glass panes in there in the windows, so pretty cool. That like kind of suction piece that he's using there at the top, I'm pretty sure is not included. That's just something used for this image here. List price for this kit coming in at 2,900 yen, so not too bad at all. Maybe thinking, oh, I can get a lot of RGs or like a larger HG kit or even some cheaper master grade kits for the same price. That's true. This kit and these kits are a lot of fun. I highly recommend you guys check them out. I would love to do a contest of these kits someday in the future, so hopefully maybe if enough of you guys get these kits, we can do a contest. But anyway, just checking out the manual here briefly, it just kind of got a diorama here on the back showing the colors, where those are placed around the kit, and what exactly the color mixtures are there. It's all in Japanese, but you guys can sort that out. Here on the inside, view of the world. So Atara City here, building head office. I guess this is like in the fictional universe. These are supposed to be like the company that makes these products, I guess, makes these robots. And then over here, I look at how to customize this, or just kind of a general idea how you can customize this with some MSG Epson parts, or Frame Arms Girl, or Hexagear, or the Sosai Shoujo Teien line, for example, or again, Frame Arms Girl parts, MSG parts, stuff like that. So obviously you're going to be pretty compatible with a lot of different Kotobukiya stuff. The rest of the manual then is just going through the construction. You have a parts list there and all the construction of that. It's a relatively simple build, pretty easy to put this one together. So let's just go ahead and check out all the parts. So runner A is going to be our orange color runner, and it is in this really bright and glossy orange. Runner B going to be some of our internal parts, with the addition of this new section of the runner over here, which is for the new add-on parts that go up on the top. Interestingly, we have other kind of part of the runner here which is missing, so I don't know if that's left there for future variants as well too, or if it's just kind of how they kind of laid out the runner, which is this like little bit over here off to the side. I don't know. Runner C, some more internal parts, and again, this is all in a kind of very dark metallic gray color. Runner D is basically the parts for the internals of each of the arms. So you've got basically all the parts here to make 2 arms, and then you have 2 of this runner to make 4 arms. And last but not least, runner E is our clear parts here for basically kind of the front and back lights of the kit. So before we move on to customizing and painting and all that, let me just go ahead and get the kit just snap built up so we can see what we're working with. We'll do a little bit of modification and then have some fun with this. Alright guys, all built up, and then I was playing around with some option parts, and here's what I've come up with. Basically the theme that I wanted to go with this one was just giving it sort of like a heavy version, sort of like a heavy armaments. So it's got the Gatling gun up there, and also missile launcher and radome for that, and then these big kind of armor shields here on the front of the legs, which aren't like a perfect match like aesthetically, but I'll need to slightly reposition them. They're just kind of hardly tacked on there. at the moment. I'm going to slightly change the position of them. I think those will flow with the design more once they're painted and everything as well too. But pretty simple, just the stuff added up on here. This Gatling gun attachment piece is actually just the barrel end of this Gatling gun set here from Kotobukiya, and it just plugs right into there very simply. But the problem is that there is a little bit of a gap there, which there, maybe you guys can see that, which I should be able to get rid of just basically by sanding down this detail on that, basically filing that down to be more flat, and this should rest more flat up inside there. So there we go, that's looking better, that's shorter. And once this is plugged onto there, we shouldn't have quite so much of a gap there at that one. It was not that much before, but now it's reduced and that looks a lot nicer on there. I could even bring that down even further, but I think that's probably going to work just fine for us now. As for filling some of these holes here on the kit, like here on the side and here on the side of the leg, basically I'm going to do exactly what I did with the other one, where just take a piece of runner and just cut off some pieces of this and then use these to plug the holes. So I can go ahead and pop that in there, and then you don't necessarily need to glue it. If you want to be able to remove that again later or something, you don't necessarily have to glue it in there. You don't need to file it down. But what I'm going to do, at least for my purposes with this kit, I'm going to glue that in and then file that down flat. So I'm going to go ahead and plug up the holes on the back legs and the side of the body here. And I'm going to temporarily fill these holes in the back as well too, but I'm going to drill them out again later because I want to have a wire plugged into here. So I got some of this just wire from Daiso, which is like gardening wire or something. It's basically 2mm thick, thing like copper or something, I guess is what's in there. Just like plastic coated wire, which is in red, and it's actually, I'm probably just going to leave it in red, so I don't even need to worry about repainting it, which is convenient. But these holes are 3mm and the wire is 2mm, so I'm just going to fill that, but then I'll later drill out a 2mm hole in there so that the wire can plug into there securely. And then I'm going to have those wires running up into the Gatling gun, so it'll be like a beam Gatling gun, sort of powered by the main suit here. The issue is I'm not sure exactly where I want to have those plugged into, like here on the side I think probably makes sense, or just straight into the back. It seems a little too obvious, so I think maybe either onto the inside here or the outside probably is a good spot for those to be, but I'll worry about that in a little bit, having those wires going up to that. As for the missile pod, this is going to take a little bit more work as well too, because there's some sections like this part in here is an area I need to fill in. The hard point here on the top is something that I want to cover up as well too. I think probably just fill that in and then just pop a photo etch piece on top of that, just like what I'm doing with the main kit. Is probably going to be the easiest thing to do for that. There also is this kind of weird detail here on the back where it's just like an empty space that I feel like probably the best bet will be to just put a detail part inside there as well too. So as for this side, let me see what I got that we can use to fill that in. Alright, so to fill that little bit there in the back, I think I'm just going to use one of these little Kotobukiya option parts here. This is from set 127, very common one. I'm sure you guys probably seen it around. Let me just do a little test, make sure it's going to fit and it's going to look good. There's how that's going to look, so I can just drop a little glue in there and it should be fine. I thought about adding like a square vernier part, as I have some in like my wave option parts over there, but it seemed a bit weird. Looked like I'm basically like adding a vent inside a vent, so it looked just kind of a bit awkward, so that I think looks probably better, more natural like that. For this side, it's a little bit more complicated because I kind of just don't really know what to put there. Just completely fill it, and it seems like an easy place to just put in like a couple of square vents or something like that to fill the space, but the vent is back here, so it wouldn't really make sense to have vents on the side as well too. So I think what I'm going to do for this is use this like attachment piece that you have in there that's meant to plug in there, so you can like plug this in as like an arm attachment piece or something like that, right onto the shoulder of a frame arms kit or something. Basically what that's for. I'm gonna leave that in there, but cut it down, and then over that I'll use one of these 3D printed detail parts. These are from the Apex hobby line that we sell there at USA Gundam Store. So there's a lot more detailed ones. I chose the more simple ones because for this it felt weird to add like a super tiny detailed piece into this design where it doesn't really have anywhere else where it's got like really super fine tiny details. So I went for just one of these that should be a little bit more simple to kind of match the design. Alright, so once those are glued onto there, and then notice the bottom one's a little bit crooked. I might try to pop that off and glue it back on, but at least for now you guys get the idea. It almost sort of looks like kind of a battery pack sort of thing that just pops right into there like that. And it looks a bit odd now because they're like pink, but I think once it's painted it'll look fine. I think I'm okay with leaving that gap there at the bottom as well too, because there is some molded detail up inside of there, so we'll just leave it like that. The other problem with this is though too that once this is plugged onto there, it can't go straight, and I don't necessarily want it to be straight. You can see it's kind of a little bit off to an angle. That's because of where the hole is located. There's not much of a gap here, so I think I need to make a new hole for that so it at least can go to be perfectly vertical. So even if I don't plan on displaying it that way, it needs to look like it actually can do that. Right now, as it looks like it's just off to the side because it can't be straight. So at least wanted to give the illusion that it could if it wanted to. So I think what I'm going to do is just reposition the hole to right here. So that'll set the whole thing just slightly a little bit more back and then a little bit more off to the side so that it could, again, look like it's actually firing straight or sitting straight on top of the kit there. There we go. With our new hole, that means I'll have to plug that one there as well too later on, but at least for now, that will sit on there. And it looks like I need to drill that out maybe a little bit deeper as well too. It's kind of a little bit loose up on there at the moment. But for now, we're kind of mostly done. So I just need to clean up these pegs, do a little bit more cleanup on the weapons. There's like a little bit of a mold line up on the Gatling gun barrel there, so I need to get rid of some of that stuff. And speaking of seams, there's a seam line on the top of the head which I've already removed, and then seam lines on the leg parts as well too, which I've already removed. So that is all done. The seam line removal on the actual kit itself is actually quite simple, pretty easy one to do for this one. So I'll just work on cleaning up these last few little bits, adding a couple little photo etch part details that I need to add onto there, and then we can just move on to the painting. Alright guys, so I've got everything all primed now just with gray surfacer, and I'm going to use some new masking tape here with this one. Like with the last one, we used the HIQ parts cloud masking. In this case, we're going to use the melting masking, which looks like this. As you can see here, it's kind of hard to tell if you just look at the tape, but that's how it's cut out. It's cut out like this to give you this melting shape. So here's some different examples on the back here, and there's a bunch of different sizes. So like there's rows of this here, and again, I know it's going to be hard to see, but there's rows of it, and each different row has like a little bit different pattern, so you can mix them up to get some nice variance between them. And you can use the top and the bottom, so like if you take it apart, you can use the top and use it like that as a mask, or you can use the bottom like this as a mask. So there's some cool things that you can do with that. Then down here at the bottom, it does show you some different examples using some different colors there, so you can get a sense of how that's going to look. But for the colors that I'm going to be using, I'm using some SMS paints here that I only have like a handful of them. So recently, not too long ago, Scott sent me some samples to try out. So I wanted to basically use the few different colors that I have in order to, you know, be creative with how I can use them, how I can apply them to this. So I'm going to use this Grau for all the mechanical bits, which is this kind of like a tannish gray kind of color. And then for the armor, it's going to be a combination of these three colors here. Now I apologize for my pronunciation. This is RLM70 Schwarzgrün, J3 Amber Gray, IJN Aircraft, I think that's Japanese aircraft, and then Dunkelgrün, which is RLM71. So what I'm going to do first is lay the amber gray kind of just over the bottom of everything. Now if we take a look here at this guy, I'm going to have that all along the bottom here, and then we'll lay a layer of masking tape so that we get our melt pattern kind of near the bottom. And then I'm going to spray the Dunkelgrün, which is a pretty like bright olive green kind of color, I guess I could say. It's much more bright than the Schwarzgrün, which is more gray, dark green kind of color. So I'll spray this along the edge of there as well too, and then I'm going to lay another layer of masking tape just a little bit above that, and then this is going to be our main color. So most of the body, kind of like all like the whole top half, and then down to like the 70%, 60-70% of like this top half is all going to be this color. And what I want to do is basically have just like a small strip of this kind of going in between. So it's not going to be perfectly even. I'm going to make it intentionally uneven, but there'll be like a stripe of this kind of as like the in-between color between the two main colors, which are these, if that makes sense. I know I'm trying to wrap my head around it as well too, exactly how to do it, but I'm just gonna give it a try and hope that it all works out anyway. So those are the colors, and that's what my plan is for this. The stripe is gonna be kind of on like the lower third, not directly in half, because there's like this kind of annoying line between the two halves of the armor pieces, and so in order to avoid that, basically, I'm having it on the lower half, and it will also sort of give the effect of like kind of a ground camo. Like the lower part is kind of like a sand, soil, kind of dried mud sort of color, which will be around the bottom, and then like the darker green kind of part on the top. It should make for an interesting look, I think, anyway. A couple things to note just as I'm laying the tape on here is that this is the M size of this tape. There is also an S and L size, so this would be medium. I think there's also a small and large size available. That makes them make it in different sizes if you're making something or you needed the drips to be larger or smaller, for example. And also, again, just to avoid any leaking under your masking, just make sure it's pressed down really well, especially along the edge. And then also this tape, is not very short, so just to make sure that I don't get any paint where I don't want it, I'm going to have to just use some regular masking tape just to cover up the bottom part of this, like here, for example, like here on this back piece. I'll just use some regular masking tape to cover up the bottom there. Alright, so there's after the first color, and I'm realizing that I did it kind of wrong for what I wanted to do. I was expecting to be able to then lay the second layer on top of that, but then that wouldn't really work out how I wanted. I wanted this layer to be kind of in the middle, which means now I need to just go back and lay another layer of masking over the top of this, so it'll kind of like crisscross over the border of this. So I'll cover some of this, so some of this color will be left, and then some will kind of bleed over. But anyway, basically another round of laying some of this tape on top of here, and then we can paint our final color.